Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Fresh Out of College. With me is Ryota, and we have another weekly rundown we are going to do. So, pretty excited, Ryota. What's to look for this episode?
Yeah, since we haven't done short-term memory or forecast for the weekend in a while, it seems, because we're so focused on our, Sonics taking flight, 5-part series. Make sure to check that out if you haven't seen the first episode, listened to the first episode yet. But a lot to cover. We're going to go over the NBA, NFL news, a little bit of world soccer, forecast the weekend, a couple of things coming up, looking forward to.
So the first update we have is the NBA bubble update. They are getting one step closer each day to the playoffs. So we'll just give the big bubble update. For big performances, we have Damian Lillard dropped 51 points against the 76ers in that win. And then also TJ Warren has showed out in the bubble, kind of surprising, as he wasn't as a big focal point for the Indiana Pacers in the regular season, but he has averaged 34 points, which leads the NBA, 60% from the field, and shooting remarkable 55% from the three-point line. Last game, he made 3 clutch baskets in the final 2 minutes against the Los Angeles Lakers to hand the Los Angeles Lakers the third consecutive loss. Ryota, are you surprised kind of by who you're seeing right now performing big time, and maybe even the Lakers that are underperforming maybe at this moment since they've lost 3 straight?
Yeah, I think Damian Lillard's not a surprise at all.
Mm-hmm.
We always know he just has a clutch gene. He has a knack for playing in clutch situations, and especially in the bubble, when they're trying to contend. The Blazers are fighting for that 9th place spot, which we'll talk about later. But I'm not surprised about Dame's performances at all. I think we knew it was going to happen. We knew he was going to carry, and make that Blazers team really good. TJ Warren, I think I'm a little surprised by. I know he's been a good player, good scorer. I didn't expect him to be this good, honestly, though. Mm-hmm. I know the Pacers are lacking in support right now with a lot of injuries.
That is true.
But, I kind of expected Malcolm Brogdon to kind of be more of a shining star, but TJ Warren took this opportunity and really showed off and been playing really well.
That is true. They are losing a couple key pieces, but I think this is, if the Pacers don't do anything which we expect them to do, it's still great for the future. Also, Luka Doncic is having an unreal bubble. He just had 36 points, 19 assists, and 14 rebounds. The 19 assists are a career high against the Bucks. So, just really cementing himself as one of the young rising stars. And for me, I think every game he plays is just a further validation, that he's better than Trae Young. And I think I don't know, Trae Young's still great in himself, but I think we're really watching a superstar, and possibly, I know it's still young, but he could, if he keeps this up, be in the Hall of Fame. And I know that's crazy to think, but 2 years in, but his coach, Rick Carlisle, praised him right after the game, and he said he knows where everybody is, not only on offense but on defense. That's a sign of a savant type player. I played with Larry Bird. He could see everything like that. I had the privilege of coaching Jason Kidd, and then he says in the same press conference, he says Luka is the same mold. So I think he was referring to Luka is the same mold as Larry Bird, and also of Jason Kidd, which we all know are 2 Hall of Famers. So pretty high praise for a second-year guy. What are your thoughts on how Luka's performed in the bubble so far? And do you think he has taken that step and possibly won that Most Improved Player of the Year or Most Improved award?
Yeah, the last year's Rookie of the Year award, went to Luka, and obviously well deserved. He's only 21, which is crazy to think. Mm-hmm. He was born in 1999.
Yeah,
not crazy to think.
Almost, yeah.
And he's scoring 36 points and having 19 assists on top of that. Mm-hmm. That's unheard of. Even nowadays, LeBron doesn't even do that.
Yeah.
And you're right. Trae Young is definitely not. I think Luka's separated himself from Trae right now, and kind of hurts to look at the draft, But I think Luka is amazing. I think you could easily compare it to Larry Bird, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, because he has a clear ability to see the court, pass the ball, but also score in isolation, shoot from the corner. he has every tool, and he's also a good rebounder we've seen too. He
Mhm.
can play point guard, he can play shooting guard, he can play small forward. Maybe he could even be a power forward in the future. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
He
he
is
does need to
he's
slim down a little bit to be a little bit. I mean, if he's quicker, that would change his game even more. He's not the quick.
yeah.
I wouldn't say he's the quickest, but he is.
He's
Um,
definitely got the, creativity with ball handling, and he really knows how
exactly.
to find his own shot.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
but I think you're right. I think he could work on his defense a little bit, but
Hmm.
I think where they're at, I think they wanna keep him for the offense and have him run the offense.
Yeah. And he's
Trey's
not a
definitely
liability on defense by any means,
yeah,
but
he's not,
he's not locked down at all.
but he's not yeah, you're right. Trey's definitely a better outside shooter. I think Luka is, I think, around 32% from the three-point line, but still, if he's putting up these numbers, I don't think anybody's complaining. Um, and lastly, in the NBA update, Carmelo Anthony just passed Paul Pierce on the all-time scoring list, and he is now ranked at 15th. So congrats to him. He's still, getting buckets at the age, and I think he's another big boost for the Portland Trailblazers to find that elusive spot. Um, Oh yeah. Okay. So then also in other news, Draymond Green, who his team is currently not in the NBA bubble, was actually fined $50,000 for tampering when he went on a post game show and said that Devin Booker should get out of Phoenix. So I thought that was kind of funny. You players really can't say anything when it comes to other players and their opinions there. So $50,000 was fined. The NBA fined Draymond Green for that. I mean, Draymond Green's always been outspoken, uh, and I don't know if that warrants $50,000 for saying that Devin Booker should get out of Phoenix, but that's me personally. What do you think?
I think what the Suns are doing is a start. I think they're building a young core right now with Booker, Kelly Oubre, who's kind of had a really good year.
Mhm.
DeAndre Ayton's at the center position. They have Mikal Bridges as a defensive kind of two-way player, the small forward position. I think, and they also have Cam Johnson, who actually played really well this year. I think his name's Cam Johnson, right?
Yeah, from UNC.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep,
He's
their
been
their first
playing
round
pretty well
pick.
too, but I think they're one good draft pick away from being a really good team.
Yeah,
Devin Booker's like what, 23?
he's still young. He's still young. Yeah, he was the youngest of the Kentucky team when they were in
Right.
college. I think he's
And
still
DeAndre
young.
Ayton was the number one pick from 2 years ago, right? And
Yeah,
he's
which
been
is
pretty good when
crazy to
he's
think.
healthy and he's been able to play.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I actually like the Suns' hopes for next year.
nice. Yeah, for me, it's always been like I think he's kind of been now dubbed that player that just fills up the stat sheet and might not lead his team to the playoffs, but I mean, I guess they're still in it, which you'll give an update shortly, but I mean, yeah. I think it's pretty funny that Draymond Green kind of called out the Suns um, because he's not even playing right now. But yeah,
I know, yeah, he has nothing else better to do. It is weird not seeing the Warriors even in the bubble.
that's true. Yeah, I know. I think that would have been fun seeing Steph and Clay. Um, but yeah, what else do we have for the NBA?
Instagram feud again between Dame and the Clippers players, PG and Patrick Beverly.
Mm,
Just kind of there's always this tension, ever since Dame shot that shot over PG and PG commented, "Oh, that was a bad shot," and whatever.
yeah, I
It's
think
all. I mean, it's just. I mean, these three players. I mean, are known to just talk on social media, and I
yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
it's funny because it's yeah. I mean, Paul George, I think is is obviously still hurt from that shot, and I think Patrick Beverly always has made his career now off of feeding off of other people's kind of like getting under their skins.
Mm.
So I think Dame did. I think Dame handled it well, and then we saw he dropped 51 points. Granted, Damian Lillard did miss those two free throws at the end of the game, but I mean, I think when it really comes down to it and you want the ball, you want somebody to have the ball and finish the game, I think I'd rather prefer Damian Lillard than Paul George. And of course, Patrick Beverly. I don't even think Patrick Beverly would be on the floor at the end of the game. But that's just me. maybe because I'm like a Portland Trailblazers slash Damian Lillard fan. But yeah, always some tension growing in the NBA, and I think it'll be fun to see. Even though will probably not play against each other in the playoffs, I think um, Portland is scheduled to play the Lakers if I'm correct, in the first round. And then obviously the Lakers in the first round, and then the Clippers are number 2. But yeah, so yeah. And then what do we have for the playing games?
Yeah, with the some of the teams being eliminated, the Pelicans are out, unfortunately. The Wizards are out of the East. Kings are also out of the West. They have officially set the game for the eighth versus ninth place team because the ninth place, there are three potential teams to make that ninth place spot, and this play-in is required now because Memphis wasn't able to separate itself far enough
Mhm.
like we expected. So Memphis will be the eighth, and the ninth place is going to be between Suns and Spurs or Blazers. The out of those three teams, whoever's closest to the eighth place team will play a play-in game on Sunday. No, Saturday. Saturday, and then if that second game is necessary, if
Mhm.
the ninth place team can win on Saturday, then they have to try to win on Sunday to force
Yeah.
the
I
further.
think it's really interesting, and I think if this all goes well, I think we'll see it in the future. Um, I think I have my hopes for Portland to lock down um, to at least get into the playing game, compared to San Antonio. Um, but yeah, it'll be fun to see. I guess the Suns are still there, so I mean, if Devin Booker can get scoring and um, get his team to win some more games, because they're doing really good this in the bubble right now. They're kind of that underrated team, but
Mhm.
yeah, so that will be something to look forward to. And yeah, so then in the NFL, we have DeAndre Baker, who is a second-year player, who recently played for the New York Giants. A cornerback is now facing 4 counts of robbery with a firearm. This, if convicted, can the sentence could be 10 years or life in prison. So yeah, pretty big news out of the NFL right there. I mean, I don't know what he was personally. I don't know what he was thinking. You're a first round draft pick. You have millions, and to have to resort to robbing and kind of throw away your career. Obviously, the Giants cut him, but yeah, I mean, I think the only thing is he would have to plead not guilty and then hope for um, an overturn. But yeah, um, the next person, Quentin Dunbar, who was allegedly part of this, was cleared. I'm still kind of surprised that happened. I guess they didn't have enough evidence on him, and they had enough evidence to pursue DeAndre Baker. So I don't really know how that works. But for Seahawks fans, that means we get another lockdown cornerback. He now is released from the exempt list, so he can join the Seahawks whenever. But it is kind of murky of what happened there with the whole Quentin Dunbar, DeAndre Baker situation. Also in the news, well, sadly to be in the news, Darius Geis was released from the team. He was a promising running back for the Washington football team. I think he was another third-year guy, second-year guy from LSU. He turned himself in on domestic violence charges, so his future in Washington and in football is likely over. But yeah, so that's what's happening in the NFL. What else do you have, Ryota?
Yeah, the NFL announced that they're going to unveil some safety protections and opt-out program for referees. A lot of talk has been about focusing on football players, but it's good that we see some, you know, programs made for the referees. So
Yeah.
the NFL and Referee Association reached on an agreement. So if they choose to opt out, they'll receive a 30K stipend, and on average, officials make about 200K during a season, and we'll still have a job in 2021, even if they do decide to opt out. So
Yeah, I think that last part's really key. I think during these times especially with officials, they're not really guaranteed a job, kind of because they're not under contract in a sense, but and also just giving them some money is a good way as well. So I think the NFL, um, handled that well, especially since these guys are more at a higher risk since they are older. I think the average age is around 50. So it's great to have that opt out for the NFL, and we might see some more replacement refs um, in the future if a lot of opt out. This weekend, also the PGA Championship happened, and Collin Morikawa, 23, won his first PGA Championship, and he finished 15 under. And on Sunday, he shot a 6 under 64. So he came back. He came from kind of the pack. I think during the weekend they were kind of in. There's a huge pack of like 5 under, 6 under, and then he sprang out to finish 13 under. So good for him. Dustin Johnson, who was the main leader throughout the weekend, finished second with 11 under, and Paul Casey tied with him. And then Brooks Koepka, who had won it 2 years prior, finished 3 under. So news out of the PGA Championship. Ryota, were you able to watch some of that?
No, I watched some of the interviews and stuff, though. I mean, Morikawa is a kind of a new player. I think he was an amateur player last year, actually, so this is his first year of going pro or second
Oh,
year.
nice.
That's pretty amazing. We've seen his name a lot in past couple leaderboards, past couple weekends, and, I thought he'd be actually one of those people we'd see at least in the top 10 this week. I thought Brooks Koepka would play better. He kind of fell off the table Saturday, Sunday, but I mean, Dustin Johnson's not a surprise name there. Tony
Mhm.
Finau was also in the pack.
Yep.
So yeah.
So would that make him? That would make him a rookie, right?
Yeah, so he's a rookie or second year, I think. Yeah. So
Mm,
he's 23, so
yeah,
he's young.
he is very young. I wonder if they have like a rookie of the year for golf.
They don't.
They don't.
No, I don't think so.
All right. What else happened this weekend?
Yeah, so MLS updates, we, sort of prefaced the semifinals last weekend to look out for those.
Yeah.
So Portland Timbers ended up beating the Philadelphia Union Wednesday 2-1, and Orlando City defeated Minnesota United 3-1. So which means the winners of the semifinals are now in the finals, which we'll talk about later for forecast for the weekend.
And then also, wasn't Portland versus beating Union an upset or not?
No, I think Portland had the edge.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still some great games. Also in the news, the next season has now been set already. So the season is tentatively set for August 12th, and that it would be the final day after the finals. So a lot of these teams in the off season don't really have an off season. Or sorry, teams in the playoffs don't really have an off season. Um, so yeah, what do you think about just a quick start? Do you like that? Do you think it's good for players and kind of not get back into like that off season of like maybe having to sit out a few months and then playing? They kind of can just get right into it, or what do you think?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think people want an off season though. Well, I mean, they kind of had that off time before the bubble
Yeah.
anyway, so you could kind of say that's their off season, but they were really ramping up quickly once they could actually practice, right? Because a lot of teams couldn't practice because of how bad COVID was at that time.
That's true.
So I don't, I, I don't know. I feel
Do you
like,
think do you think this is kind of the MLS saying we need to get we need to get the season started before maybe a next wave of COVID starts?
no, I think they're just trying to get back on schedule, right? Because their
Okay.
season ended later than normal, so they're trying to get back on schedule as much as they can.
Mhm.
But think about it, the first opening game is going to be the day after the championship.
Yeah,
Like, that I feel like that's never happened before. It's just crazy to think about. Again,
that's
that's
true.
tentative, I think that's tentative, but
Yeah.
I'm sure
It's still
Orlando or Portland, won't be playing on the 12th. Obviously, they'll probably play the next week, but,
uh-huh.
the Sounders could be playing on the 12th or something, I don't know.
Do you know where it would be since is it still gonna be a bubble or is it gonna
No,
be
no,
okay.
so they're gonna really try to do by market,
Wow.
in their hometowns like the MLB,
And we've seen that happen, yeah, exactly with MLB.
so we don't know,
That's
it'll be
crazy,
interesting to see. I mean, they're starting off early. They're gonna start before the NFL, so
right?
it might be a test for the MLS to prove themselves. I don't know. It's a quick
Quick
turnaround.
Quickly before we move on to the next update, do you think the MLS has an edge up against kind of maybe the MLB and also the NFL when it comes to being in their own state? Just maybe because
I
it's less contact or
Well, I wouldn't say so much a contact. I think soccer, you're still going to, but you're going to hit heads. You're going to run against people. Not nearly as much as football, but it's definitely in between baseball and football. But I think the one edge that soccer has is the staff, the amount of staff and players, because there's
Okay.
11 on a field, right, per team, and you
Mhm.
have about 6 bench players per game,
Right.
and you'll kind of have like a taxi squad slash youth team, but they're probably not showing up to so it might be kind of like the MLB system where you have the big league roster and a kind of farm system at Tacoma.
Okay.
I assume the Sounders are going to do something similar to that, because like the bench team, you have to basically how soccer works is you have to before every game, like a day or before, you have to choose who's going to be a part of the starting lineup slash the bench squad, like who
Mhm.
the travel team, you could say, right? And everyone else is just not going to show up to the game, or at least not suit up.
Yeah.
So they're going to have this. Soccer has this big taxi squad, but at least the people going to the stadium or traveling, it's going to be less compared to baseball or football, dramatically less. And coaching staff is probably about like 7 or 6, and then medical personnel, which is drastically less than football, as we
Yeah.
know.
By a
So
lot.
I think soccer does have an edge. Um, yeah, that's my
Yeah.
take there.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think especially since, they have kind of these also guidelines, protocols set up maybe for the bubble as well. Maybe they can carry that over. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So mark your calendars for August 12th. It's already coming up.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, so what about the UEFA Championship League update on
Y-
that?
Yeah. So last week, the round of 16 happened. So half the round of 16 already was played and finished before the shutdown. So what happened was they needed to play the second aggregate leg for just a couple of games.
Okay,
So we saw Lyon upset Juventus, the team that Cristiano Ronaldo plays for.
right, yeah,
Lyon narrowly moved on with a 2-2 aggregate, but they had more away goals, so they had that edge, and Lyon moved on,
okay,
led by Memphis Depay. But it's definitely a huge upset. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo scored 2 goals, but it wasn't enough. Man
yeah,
City eliminated
yeah.
Zidane's Real Madrid 4-2 on aggregate. I mean, that was kind of a contested battle to begin with, but Man City held on. Madrid just really couldn't climb up to the top in that outing. And Bayern, who won the German league again, dominated Chelsea, the young, Lampard's young team,
Mhm.
in a 7-1 aggregate. It was a huge landslide there. And then
Wow,
lastly, Barcelona beat Italian team Napoli 4-2 on aggregate. Lionel Messi picked up a little injury, but they think he'll be fine for this week.
that's great. So going back to the very first one, just because Ronaldo is now out, was this how big of an upset was the first game? Lyon upsetting Juventus.
I think it was a major upset. I
Okay,
think. Well,
yeah.
Lyon already had the edge coming from the first game in
Mhm.
aggregate, but this game, having 3 or 4 months to think about it, I'm sure the Juventus team was eager and they're practicing
Exactly.
hard, but
Yeah.
Lyon was able to manage. Yeah,
That's crazy. That is very interesting, and we will see what happens next. Also in the news for this is Atletico Madrid has some breaking news as two members of the team tested positive, and they play this Thursday. So we don't really know what's going to happen. Still major. I mean, anybody testing positive now is breaking news. So we'll see if they're obviously the two players are going to be quarantined, but we'll see if their other teams or other players get tested and what the results will be for that. And we'll have the update on that when we get word of that. Worldwide news update. Ryota, go for it.
yeah. So after Juventus was knocked out, they fired their coach instantly. He was kind of in question to start with. He didn't have the best relationship with Ronaldo per se,
Mm,
but they had higher expectations than to make it to semifinals to even win this year. So after being eliminated from the round of 16, they sacked him. So they say in soccer, sack the coach. So Mauricio Sarri is out, and they hired a. This would be actually his first coaching experience. So they hired Andrea Pirlo, who is a 2020 year vet who played in Italy, played a short stint in New York before he retired. He's 44-year-old Italian national player. I mean, he's one of the GOAT midfielders of all time in the world. But again, this is his first managing experience. He was
Mhm.
hired in July to coach the under 23 team, so like one of their youth teams. Yes, he was hired in July, but this happened, and they said, okay, now we're going to hire you for the top team job.
Do you know if he
And
has
what
a good relationship with Ronaldo? Or I
I don't know yet. They
okay,
didn't play together.
yeah,
Pirlo played for Juventus for 5 years.
right,
Before that, he played for like AC Milan, which is one of the other top teams in Italy.
okay.
But I guess I mean I'm asking you, what is your take on
Yeah, I think it's
44-year-old in his first coaching experience?
yeah, I think it's interesting, especially since he has that past experience. This hiring reminds me a lot about Jason Kidd, when he was hired by the Bucks or from the Nets, and then he went to the Bucks. Um, he didn't have the best. I mean, he had some success, but some could attribute that to Giannis. And then he was soon out of the league,
Hmm.
coaching wise. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we see it with some sports. These young guys who've already played the sport, can have that like inside trait. But I think it takes another type of player, um, to kind of coach and manage a team,
Hmm.
especially when you have a professional team, when you have all these egos. And you said that Ronaldo is on this team, and kind of reminiscent to LeBron James and how he
Hmm.
controls that team. And like, if I don't
Right.
like the coach, you need
Right.
another coach, or else I'm leaving. And I don't know if that is kind of like LeBron, but I think he is kind of viewed in that same way, with that
Hmm.
same amount of like, skill and power. So I mean, we'll definitely see how this new coach, this kind of player coach, kind of goes and molds well with Ronaldo, because obviously Ronaldo is that piece that will get you to the championship. Um, and then like in our last week's episode, our podcast, for the Supersonics. Go check it out if you haven't already. But we saw Lenny Wilkens be a player coach, and that worked out well. So I think it's just interesting how the times have changed. Going from like player coach, how that's really normalized, and players can do really well with that, to kind of just now coaches, maybe 10 years ago to now are succeeding. And then you have like, okay, I'm retired, but I'm going to spend 1 year in the off season and then go coach, and then kind of see how that transpires. But again, this is a different sport than basketball, so I don't really know how managing works if if it goes like that. So that's my like gut reactions from not like watching sports, or not watching soccer, but kind of a basketball mindset to it.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Arsenal is also closing in on bringing 32-year-old Brazilian William, to the team. So pretty big news out there. What do you think about that signing, Ryota?
Yeah, I mean, as an Arsenal fan, I like what because so interesting. The Arsenal coach is also a new manager, kind
Oh,
of.
okay.
He played for Arsenal and had a pretty good, like a decent career in England. He was an assistant coach for like 2 years, and then is now head coach. Is like first time head coaching.
And is he doing
Um,
well?
well, they didn't play that well this year, but he's kind of rebuilding this young
Okay, okay.
team and adding Willian, who's kind of like a pretty well known Brazilian English player.
Yeah.
He's 32 though, so
I feel like I've
I'm not
heard
really
about
sure how he
him
fits
too.
in. What's that?
Did he play for the Brazil team, the
Yeah, in the
national team?
World Cup. Yeah, so you've
Okay,
probably
yeah.
seen him. He's the one with the big poofy hair, kind of
Right,
short and
yes.
quick. Um, but I mean, he's a good player. He didn't get a lot of playing time at Chelsea because Chelsea's kind of rebuilding also.
Mhm.
So he got kind of kicked out of there and just kind of lost his role. So I'm not really sure he's going to fit into the Arsenal lineup yet. We do have some young players kind of hoping, I think, that they'd improve on the wing. So maybe he's just going to bring in veteran leadership kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a good player, but I think if he wanted more playtime, he could have gone somewhere else. I think, honestly.
Interesting, especially since it is a rebuild, so
Hmm.
you're not looking for that, I don't know, postseason experience, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
Next up, Chelsea, the team we just talked about, Arsenal's rival, is bolstering their young attack by they're close to signing Kai Havertz. I think they haven't come to an agreement on the price, but it's most likely going to happen. Kai Havertz, 21 years old, breakout year at Leverkusen. German sensation. He's, I mean, supposed to be one of the best German players in the next 5 years. So Chelsea's just trying to add to their attack, and yeah.
Yeah, 21-year-old too.
Hmm.
Kind of is kind of upped their rivals in Arsenal, but Barcelona is also interested in bringing Bernardo Silva to play for Spain. So to play in Spain. So I don't really know who that is. Ryota, can you give me insight?
Yeah, he's probably like Manchester City's like best one of their best players.
Oh,
But you
okay.
know how Barcelona is, they're like the Yankees, they just can sign
Yeah,
whoever they want basically.
yeah.
So
Whatever.
it probably
Just a
won't
few.
happen, but they do want him.
Nice. Well, that's a lot of soccer. That's a big
More soccer
update.
than we usually talk about. There's a lot of ongoing stuff today. So
That was jam-packed.
okay,
Um,
quick segment or segue to baseball, right? And then we'll go to college football after this.
yeah,
Okay, so quick baseball news. We didn't really feel like we need to go over the standings or anything right now, but a little Astros situation again. Ramon Laureano was heckling a pitcher. Did you see the video?
yeah, I did.
This I thought it was pretty funny. This is like the
I thought
most
it was
ultimate
hilarious.
roast
So,
ever.
so to give some context to it, do you want to? Okay, so Ramon Laureano was actually traded for this pitcher, straight up.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So there's some like kind of beef going on,
Mm,
especially since one of the A's well-known fan, I don't know who he said it, but he said that I can't believe Houston traded Ramon Laureano for this guy. Thank
mm,
you, cheaters, or something like that. And then the pitcher actually liked the tweet. So in his mind, he kind of knew that. Um, so the pitcher, who I don't know his name, not really relevant, but he hit Ramon Laureano twice in the 2 games, and then Ramon Laureano also was hit once. So a total of 3 times Ramon Laureano has been pegged. But yeah, continue now.
yeah, well, the pitch that he was like his reaction was, or the pitch that got the reaction was like a 3-2 slider.
Hmm.
So it wasn't the most intentional act ever. It could have been a fastball at his head, but it wasn't. It was like a slider that probably slipped out.
Yeah.
But what Ramon Laureano does after he got hit, it's kind of like, damn, it's whatever. Looks at the pitcher and then tries to like motion how to throw a slider. I
Hmm.
thought it was really funny. He's like saying, yeah, you gotta
You gotta
cut
flick
it,
the
you gotta
wrist,
bring
flick
that
it.
middle finger down so you get that spin. And then there was a little, I mean, it wasn't a huge altercation. Like the umpire got in the way, Maldonado got in the way, it stopped it. And then as Laureano was going to first, I guess the Astros bench was chirping, as I mean, they should, I guess, right? And one of the coaches was caught Laureano's attention on first base, and then they were like, I don't know what they were saying, and they waved, and the coach like, "Come on over here." Laureano's, "Are you
Yeah.
sure?" And then he runs over and then gets tackled by some of the Astros players.
Yeah. So it was crazy. I think what happened. So we don't know what happened. We don't know what was said. We're just speculating. This is all hearsay. But what Bob Melvin said, which is the A's manager, he said that Liriano would not institute a fight if there wasn't something bad said. So I don't know. I don't know what was said, but I'm guessing from what the A's manager said is that he kind of was like, "This is not heard of. Like this is not like Yasiel Puig, who who has like that history of like going at and like instituting a fight." So it is big. We expect lengthy suspensions. Rita, do you know? Do you think? I mean, I think Liriano is going to get more games, or he should get the same amount of games as Joe Kelly. But I also think the hitting coach for the Astros, who kind of like heckled him on, should also get suspended as well.
Well, I think the MLB is going to be really careful about this. They're going to review the film a bunch of times because, again, they're not supposed to be brawls to
Exactly.
limit, to make sure social distancing. And people might say, "Oh yeah, but they're all tested negative before the games and stuff." But you never know. You never know.
Hmm.
You want to take as much precaution as possible, and you guys are playing 60 games, so you have to take every precaution. But I think Laureano's going to get a pretty lengthy suspension, which is really it's just going to hurt the Astros. I think he's one of the best hitters right now.
Yeah, I think he's hitting the 2 spot. I think he's hitting over 300, and
Yeah,
they're on it. They're on a 9-game winning streak.
right.
So
I mean, I don't blame Laureano for charging them because again, they probably said something bad. as
Mhm.
funny as it was teaching the pitcher how to throw a slider, he probably didn't need to do that because that's what led to him,
Yeah. I think it
being
was
chirped
just
at.
because he's been hit so many times,
No,
and
I I know,
twice
but
by the
like he
pitcher,
didn't
but
have
yeah.
to though,
I
but
thought
he
it was
did.
funny. I thought it was harmless.
Yeah, but if you're okay, if you let's say we're playing pickup basketball, you airball a three, and show you, Drew, this is how you shoot a three. Wouldn't you be angry
I mean, I
in
would
a
be angry,
serious
but
game?
I
If it
don't
was an
think, like
intramural championship, wouldn't you be angry?
but okay, so I think, yes, teaching a pitcher how to
Yeah,
pitch,
see, yeah, you would
but
be.
I think it's fun. I don't think I think Liriano, like, we have to he's been pegged twice by this guy. One time it was a fastball, and now it's a slider, and he's just telling him, like, "You can't why are you hit," like, I mean, he coulda charged him. Like, would you rather him charge the pitcher than just, like, I don't know. I
I
think,
think it would have been funny if he says, "Can you throw a strike?"
yeah, and maybe he was like, "Just throw the strike." Yeah, I don't know.
He could
But
have
I'm
just said, "Walk
glad,
by and say throw a strike," instead of like staring at him, literally going like this over and over again.
yeah,
But I mean, I get his frustration, but I mean, he started. I mean, we don't know who started it, but I think that that
okay,
part was visible, and that's a problem.
to end this segment up really quickly, I think from the video, and everybody can, like, watch it again, but I think what happened was I think the Astros pitching coach or hitting coach started it. I think what happened was I think he was chirping at Liriano, which he shouldn't be in the first place because, I mean, it's not his thing. I mean, if the pitcher was chirping at him, that's okay because they're players. But this guy is not a player. This guy's the most, like, I don't know. I think it's just bad. It looks bad when a coach is yelling at another player and then saying, like,
Oh
"Bring it
no,
on,"
no,
because I
I
think he
think
stepped forward.
yeah. Well, I mean, coaches do still talk crap. Like we've seen that. Coaches are part of the fight sometimes.
Yeah, but I think it just looks bad. I mean, it's like,
No, it does look bad, but I mean, like, there's times when like Dave Roberts is yelling at a player, or I'm sure Bob Melman has yelled at other teams' players. Like that's happened before, so it's not
but
like totally out of the ordinary. But yeah, he kind of pushed it too far, I guess. Whatever he said.
yeah, I mean, those are also managers, so I feel like, I don't
No,
know.
actually, what the problem is? The coach waved at him to come over here. That's the
Okay,
problem.
okay,
If he's chirping, that's totally fine.
yeah.
But the problem is he said, "Come over here," and then everyone's saying, he backed out of the way, and all the players got in front of him. He got saved by his players
This could be strategic for the Astros, though.
to knock Loriano out of the game.
What do you need? What really do you need a hitting coach for, especially with the Astros? He's out maybe 10 games. Liriano's out, like, what, 10 games, 12 games? 12 games in a 60-game schedule? That's huge.
Yeah, I'm sure some other players will get fined too or suspended because I mean, especially because you know how they don't always suspend or look for the player that started it, but they look for other parts in the
Yeah.
fight. Because I saw like some athletics players run in and Astros bullpen run in, so I'm sure some of those guys will be suspended. It'd
Yeah,
be
I think
unfortunate if it were Matt Chapman or I don't know some of those guys.
I'm just saying
Hey,
what
as a Mariner
happened.
fan, it's not a terrible idea. Hey, Altuve kicked somebody on accident. Oh, he's suspended. Oh, Correa tried to tabletop somebody, suspended. I don't know.
Speaking of the Mariners, I think in the West, I think Texas is looking pretty good too. They're
Texas
second.
starting rotation's good.
They're second in the AL West. Pretty
The
crazy.
hitting, I think their hitting is a little questionable though. They
Yeah,
don't really
but it's
have
only
a.
60 games. You really just need a
I know, but the pitching's been really good, so they don't
yeah,
need
it
much
has
hitting.
been. And the Mariners, sorry, not we. The Mariners play them today.
Yeah, Kyle Gibson versus Justin Dunn, I think,
So we'll see what happens.
or technically yesterday because today is Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
But
Yes,
yes, they are
yesterday.
playing. Okay, college football.
In college football, the Power 5 conferences are talking about no football in the fall. Pretty huge, to say the least. I mean, the Power 5 commissioners are, saying there's a slim chance to even play football, and I know the Big Ten is talking with other, like the SEC and the Pac-12, and saying we probably should not play. What are your first initial thoughts on that?
I think we both knew this was coming.
Yep.
I think we are outstanding college football analysts because we knew this was coming. So props to us first. No, but I mean, we inherently knew this was going to be the problem, right? This is kind of I compared it to the United States government. You have the federal government,
Mhm.
sorry, the U.S. government, and then you have state governments. You have the NCAA, you have the Pac-12. You have the NCAA, you have the SEC. That's the problem. When you're not on the same page, it's really hard to do anything. And we're only
Mhm.
talking about some of the big leagues. What about the other leagues that we've never even heard of? Some of
Yeah.
the small D1s or even D2 football or D3 too, right?
I
So
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
don't think they would be playing just because I think there's more in line, especially for the Power 5 conferences,
Oh, okay.
like draft picks, and like
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, it is difficult, especially for next season, like what's gonna happen, you know?
Who knows? I mean,
Trevor
and
Lawrence
sorry,
there's
go
also
ahead.
something interesting that I wanted to bring up. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. Trevor Lawrence plays for Clemson. Justin Fields plays for OSU. They were obviously in the uh, college football playoffs last season. They took to Twitter to try and establish a player union. And then I kind of want to read off Trevor Lawrence's tweet that he just sent via Twitter. So he said, so this is for him advocating for football this season. He said this: people are just as much, if not more, at risk if we don't play. Players will be sent home to their own communities where social distancing is highly unlikely, and medical care and expenses will be placed on the families if they were to contract COVID-19. Not to mention the players coming from situations that are not good for them, for their future, and having to go back to that. Football is a safe haven for so many people. We are more likely to get the virus in everyday life than playing football. Having a season also incentivizes players being safe and taking all of the right precautions to try and avoid contracting COVID because the season teammates' safety is on the line. Without the season, as we've already seen, people will not social distance or wear masks and take the proper precautions. So it is very interesting. He said a few things that I kind of want to highlight. He
Mm.
said that players will be sent home, and if they contract COVID-19, then that is on their families to get the medical care. He also said that football is a safe haven, and more players will take more precautions to not let down their teammates and kind of be more safe in that way. Um, so yeah, those were the two things that I thought were big. What were your kind of things once you heard that?
I respect Trevor Lawrence for speaking out. I think I think he's well spoken. He's very intelligent. I think, and when he does speak, it's with like intent. Like he's not outwardly like extroverted on social media, which I respect. He's kind of got this humbleness to him, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's why scouts like him too. But so first thing, he wanted to start a players union, right? Is that
Correct. Yes.
okay? So for my first initial, at least reaction to that is they're not jobs, so he can't create a labor union because a players union is a labor union, isn't it?
I think in this, I think so. It's very. I think this was only trying to establish this yesterday, and then he sent out this
Oh,
tweet. But I think his intentions are to give them kind of a voice.
okay. I
Um,
think what he needs to create is an association because a union is like a labor union, like we learned in history class, like
hmm.
MLBPA and that those are all labor unions because they have jobs, but this
Hmm.
won't work because a student athlete is not a job
Well,
legally.
yeah. I mean,
But anyways,
hopefully, yeah.
that's a topic for another time. It's not. I was just kind of nitpicking at that,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I think I think he's right in some way when you say, if college student athletes are going to stay on campus, they could be safer. But my only problem was that student athletes are going to be surrounded by other student athletes and students,
Hmm. Yeah.
and even Trevor Lawrence cannot deny that there are going to be other people that they're going to be around. He can't deny that. Like as much as as perfect as he might be, his teammates are going to go hang out with some other people that they shouldn't be hanging out with,
Hmm.
and that could affect the system, right? We saw. Did you hear about the we should probably talk about. I forgot to mention this. Zach Plesac, after his start on Saturday, he went out to hang out with
Who
his friends.
who? Sorry,
Oh,
for
sorry.
baseball or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Zach Plesac, the Indians pitcher,
Okay.
who I drafted on my fantasy team, who's outstanding, by the way.
Okay.
After his start, he went to hang out with his friends and broke protocol.
Okay. So
And the
yeah.
Indians are bagging on him, and he has to do 72-hour quarantine now. Shane Bieber tweeted out or interviewed, said, "We're going to get on him for this. That we'll take care of this in house."
Wow.
He's like 25, so he's young.
Yeah.
And
That's very
Trevor Lawrence
interesting.
cannot deny that that will happen in college football.
Yeah,
And when
that's
one player
huge.
does it, and if he happens to test positive, that defeats the whole system.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think Trevor's right in saying, the college, if you go to the campus, it could be more of a bubble. But first
yeah,
off, you need to make sure the school is all online,
yeah.
that other students aren't on campus. You also have other student athletes. Like football isn't the only sport here, right?
I
As
think for
much as we
this
might think football's the only sport, we have
yeah,
other
I
sports
think
on campus.
yeah. I think so for the players union, I think it would only be for football.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. But you're right. Yeah, I know. It is interesting. I think I liked what he said though about, this is kind of like I think players hopefully, and I mean, I didn't know about the Plesac thing, but you know, I would hope that players don't just think about themselves and when they go out. I hope they think about the whole teammates, and try and stay safer. But yeah, so that's kind of the big news for college football is Trevor Lawrence, and I mean these guys are big names, the, and it's really nice to see that they're probably going to be gone next season, and they want to try and create something that's bigger than them. But you're right; it's really there's a lot of unknowns now.
Do you think what he said is accurate slash good, or do you think I don't know? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think?
Yeah, I think I liked it. I think I read when I read it. I think he's right. I think I think a lot of these players that go play football for these big colleges, some of them aren't in the best situation, um, financially or at home. So like going there is obviously a safe haven when it comes to like they're with their teammates, they're working out, they're striving for something bigger. Um, so I think if there was no football, I think this would be a huge loss for that. Um, and I think it does advocate for more people kind of social distancing and wearing masks because right now I think what's going on in the whole world is that a lot of the younger generations are looking at this and are saying that we don't need to wear masks. That masks aren't cool like this thing. But if college football were to play, I think we would definitely see college players wearing masks, and maybe that might incentivize uh, the younger generation to wear that. But yeah, that's my splurge.
Yeah, I guess my only problem was that I think the college people are part of that group, so I'm worried that they'll
Yeah,
be a bad influence.
yeah, and
You
then
know.
I would say for that, I hope they go through some more protocol because I mean, if you look at college football, some of these players are fighting for a draft pick and fighting for a job, so it
Mhm.
is crucial to them to have these games for the Power Five conferences. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, lastly, for the NFL and college football, if college football does not begin, the NFL is going to try and play on Saturdays. So, kind of a fun, cool thing if that happens. Maybe this will help if games have to be rescheduled for COVID. Could be another game, another new slot. But yeah, what other sports do we have, or what other updates do we have in sports?
I think the last short-term memory we have is the Mike Tyson return is now delayed. It was originally set for September. Is
Right,
now going to be November 28th.
28th. Yeah,
So
wow.
quite a long ways away.
That is very
But
interesting. I think there's a lot of buildup too, but maybe that's just to get more money. But yeah, Mike Tyson, it will be set to return, kind of unretire, and look for him November against
mhm.
Roy Jones Jr. All right, well, that's our final short-term memory. Let's just hop into forecast for the weekend.
Okay, number one, episode 2 of Taking Flight will release on Friday. Make sure to
And
check out our
so,
first one if you haven't seen it yet, our Sonics um,
documentary,
documentary podcast. I don't. We need to think of a name for that.
docu-series,
Docu series, yeah,
a
5-part docu
pod.
series. So the next part, we'll just continue from our chronological order.
Yeah, we got a lot.
Exciting.
A lot going on. I think we're going to talk about the championship seasons or season for the Sonics, and it'll be really interesting. So make sure to check that out. And that will be exclusively a podcast. So
Mhm.
yeah, UEFA Champion League quarterfinals. Atlanta versus PSG is Wednesday at 12 p.m. I think it's 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Pacific,
Eastern time.
Pacific.
Pacific, sorry. Noon Pacific. Lesping and Atletico Madrid is Thursday at noon. Barcelona versus Bayern is Friday at noon. Man City versus Lyon is Saturday at noon. So a lot of noon games. We got to take your quick picks right here. The first game, who do you have?
PSG,
All right, second game,
Atletico Madrid,
third game,
Bayern,
fourth game.
Man City.
Really, you're not going Lyon?
No.
But
Leon
they
is
had that
quite an
huge win.
underdog. It's quite an underdog here.
Quite an underdog. All right. Well, you got it here first. Make sure you lock down those picks. If you miss those, scroll back a little bit and lock them down because Ryota has them first. All right, Ryota, what else is happening?
Next week, this weekend, some more golf. We have the Wyndham Championship at Sedgefield Country Club, which is in Pittsburgh. I have my eyes set on Brooks Koepka, just because he's my guy. I think Morikawa is going to try to impress too. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy that golf is happening every single week. So I'm in for the good views. That's my pick. The MLS final, Timbers versus Orlando City, will be August 11th at 5:30 Pacific time, and Orlando is favored. Ryota, do you agree with this?
I do, because as a Sounder fan, I hate the Timbers, so I never want them to win. So why not let Orlando win?
Makes sense.
It's actually August 11th. That's today, technically.
That is today or
tonight.
Yeah. Right.
Make sure
to go check that
listen
out.
To our podcast.
Oh gosh, that always messes me up. Okay. Yeah, so those were kind of our forecast for the weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed our weekly rundown, and we will see you next week, next Tuesday, for another one.